Brady Cook, Luther Burden, and Darius Robinson are all questionable for Vanderbilt, so a big injury update at the top of the show. Plus, today is the first day of basketball practice. Let's talk about how the roster's looking for 2023-24 right now on Locked On Mizzou.
You are Locked On Mizzou, your daily podcast on the Missouri Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, all you true sons and daughters, I'm John Miller, your Mizzou mafioso and the central scrutinizer of Missouri Tigers football and basketball. And today's episode is brought to you by eBay Motors. A championship team is about each player being a perfect fit. Same with your vehicle. So for parts that fit, head to eBay Motors and look for the green check. Stay in the game with eBay Guaranteed Fit. ebaymotors.com. Let's ride. eBay Guaranteed Fit, only available to U.S. customers. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. And some really big injury updates here from Eli Drinkwitz yesterday. In fact, he clarified on Brady Cook's status a little more last week, saying there was no way in my mind. I thought Monday or Tuesday he was playing in the Memphis game. So leading up to it, that was definitely a question mark, maybe more than people realized. But you know, it's possible that Eli Drinkwitz is just talking up Brady Cook's toughness here, but I have to admit I did find it interesting last week that there was no real further update on Cook's status other than Missouri putting out pictures of him practicing in a knee brace on Tuesday. See, from there on out, I was saying on the show, I was kind of going, hey, I'm resetting my X feed here, trying to find some kind of update, and just never got one for you. So is it possible that Cook's a true question mark this week heading into Vanderbilt? Honestly, I kind of doubt it since he played last week, and I thought, for the most part, looked like himself. Obviously, Missouri didn't ask Brady Cook to do nearly as much in the designed running game, but there was at least once or twice where Cook had to scramble and, I thought made a cut on that knee and mostly looked like his usual self. So that should be good news for Missouri there. Luther Burden, also questionable. Also, both Burden and Cook are going to be limited in practice this week, according to Drinkwitz, regardless if they play or not. In my opinion, I think it seems pretty likely that Burden and Cook are both going to play. Obviously, Burden's had a real big burden in terms of a load on his plate this season so far. So obviously going to want to keep him healthy. No question about that. Now, as for defensive end, former defensive tackle, now mostly a full-time defensive end, Darius Robinson, he's also questionable, and I think his status truly is in doubt for Saturday's game. I'm actually much more worried about him than probably anybody else on the roster right now. Just going back and watching his injury, just kind of a non-contact injury, it looked like for the most part, just went down, grabbing his hamstring, it looked like. That might well have been something that had been bothering Darius for some time. Who knows? We haven't gotten a lot of specific updates there, but those type of injuries, really tricky, obviously, and to come back 7 days later may be asking a lot for Darius. But I'll tell you what, first quarter, when he was in there, he was making a difference, obviously. Robinson's been a very good player for Missouri for a while now, so hopefully he can be out there. But I think if he's iffy, especially with the nature of his injury, again, hamstrings, something that can just linger for the entire season, if you let him, I would lean toward letting him sit out a week and hopefully get to the LSU game remaining undefeated. And also, Colin McAndrew of the Columbia Tribune was at practice yesterday, and he gave some good updates On the Missouri cornerback situation, of course, Ennis Rakestraw surprisingly missed the game last week. Jaden Norwood left early. Well, again, according to McAndrew here, Rakestraw and Norwood both practiced, and from what he could see, he says they were quite far away from his vantage point, but neither one of them look limited, so that's good news there. Sounds like both of them should be good to go for this week. As for Chris Abrams-Drain, he was in a no-contact jersey, but he says, I would say that's just precautionary. I would certainly assume so as well, as Abrams-Drain was, well, maybe the Iron Man of the defense last week. I didn't see him miss a snap from what I could tell. So, again, McAndrew says if I'm a betting man, I wager all three are available. And with Chris Abrams-Drain putting on that no-contact jersey, again, that does give you an idea. We are into now going to be week 5 of the season, especially a lot of guys like Chris Abrams-Drain, a guy who's been around. This is his 4th year, I believe, in the program. Same thing with Brady Cook. He's been around forever, too. The more veteran of a guy that you are, the more likely you are to get those type of maintenance days. And obviously Luther Burden just being the incredibly important piece that he is, you're a lot more likely to have not only a sit out of practice, but a limited day in practice, put on the old green quarterback jersey, the don't touch me bro jersey, as I occasionally call it. But really, I think those guys sound like they're going to be okay, and that's a really big deal because obviously those are important players for Missouri, but maybe even particularly so against Vanderbilt. If the Commodores are going to pull an upset, they're probably going to need to pass the ball efficiently against Missouri. Drinkwitz says on the Commodores, I think their wide receiver group is as good as anyone in the SEC. Now, I've talked a lot recently about Missouri's lack of execution on third downs offensively, but you know what? Defensively, Missouri's left a little bit to be desired on that key situation as well. And Eli Drinkwitz says the challenge for us is to figure out what our identity is going to be on third down and stick to it and not be as much of a hodgepodge kind of pick 'em. Let's figure out what we're going to be good at and get good at it. Well, that makes a lot of sense on a lot of levels, certainly. And actually, if you listen to my show yesterday, if you're an everydayer, you heard my conversation with former cornerback Clayton Baker. Definitely go back and listen to that. Some really good insight there from a former Tiger, without a doubt. But I'd also like to point out, we actually had a little bit of a debate about, well, should Missouri just drop into a deep zone, drop 8, rush 3 in that kind of situation, or should we bring pressure? Well, Clayton Baker kind of was more on the bring pressure side, but I want to give you the contrast of those two snaps here, show you exactly what I'm talking about. So to Drinkwitz's point here, this is a real contrast. You've got a 3rd and long situation here for Memphis. And at the snap, well, you'll notice 3 guys for Missouri playing the deep part of the field, 5 in the middle, and Missouri just rushing 3 here. Now, Johnny Walker does a really nice job, by the way, rushing 3. He's been an excellent pass rusher so far for Missouri. 15 beats the tackle inside and, well, pretty much blows this play up, causes the Memphis quarterback to leave his pocket, and because of that, cuts the football field in half, essentially. There's nowhere to really for him to go with the football. So you know what? If Missouri can rush effectively with 3 guys like that, certainly it's going to be an effective defense. No question about that. So pre-snap, obviously there couldn't really be a bigger contrast between the previous play I showed you, that 3rd and long, and this 3rd and 18 here in the second quarter that Memphis actually picks up. And, well, actually Missouri is showing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 guys on the line of scrimmage with essentially no safeties back in help. You've got number 4 back here who can help out a little bit, but also you've got 3 guys to the outside here that are basically man-to-man. Well, Missouri does end up only rushing 5 guys on this play. Tyron Hopper drops back into coverage. Joseph Charleston drops back to help out the inside as well. But a pretty easy pitch and catch here on the opposite side. Just the single receiver isolated here on, it looks like Jalen Carlisle's Rock Taylor here. Just a good matchup for Memphis. They throw it quickly underneath and pick up the 3rd and 18 here. Now, I'm not trying to blame Jalen Carlisle's here. That's a tough matchup for him on their number one receiver. The problem is he just has no help here whatsoever. Frankly, Tyron Hopper, number 8, the middle linebacker, he's just got to get deeper there. Now, I don't know what his assignment there is, obviously. I didn't call the defense. I'm just saying in terms of design of the defense, you've got to help out that player a little bit. And maybe that is a missed assignment. That's something Clayton Baker pointed out a lot, and Eli Drinkwitz seemed to agree with him yesterday, saying that Missouri has had some missed assignments here defensively that have crucially given up some key 3rd downs and some touchdowns in the red zone. And believe it or not, Mizzou basketball is going to be here before you know it. First practice is today. Mizzou Madness coming up here in a couple weeks. Once again, outside at the Quad. So that should be an exciting time as well. So let's talk about the Missouri basketball roster, how it's shaping up, and, well, maybe a slight concern, actually, about the future. Let's address all of that coming up here in a little bit. But you know what? I tell you, when it comes to DoorDash, you know what? You're not actually paying for groceries. What you're really paying for is your time back. And you know what? You've trusted DoorDash to deliver your restaurant favorites, and now you can get grocery delivery that actually delivers too. And you'll get exactly what you ordered, or DoorDash will make it right. So just sit back and enjoy quality groceries just like you went to the store and picked them up yourself. And if you want even more value, you can save on all your grocery and restaurant favorites with a $0 delivery fee on all eligible orders with a Dash Pass membership. And my listeners can get 50% off your first DoorDash order up to a $20 value when you use code LOCKEDONCollege at checkout. Limited time offer, terms apply. That's 50% off up to $20, no minimum subtotal, and 0 delivery fees on your first order when you download the DoorDash app in the App Store and enter code LOCKEDONCollege. Don't forget that's code LOCKEDONCollege for 50% off your first order with DoorDash. Now, with so much talk about this seemingly great 2024 basketball recruiting class that Dennis Gates is, well, maybe about to wrap up here in the next month or so, we'll see. But certainly the majority of the work has been done, and so far the returns are looking excellent. This is a top 5, certainly a top 10 class when it's all said and done, I will say. But because of all the excitement around the future, well, maybe the nearer-term future, the 23-24 Tigers, maybe been a little bit overlooked lately, maybe even by me. You could argue that as well. So let's rectify that, as this is the first day of Mizzou basketball practice. And I divided the roster here. We're just going to go quickly over the roster here. And I divided them into 3 basic sections: lead guards, wings, and big guys. Now, as far as the lead guards go, I think it's pretty easy the first 3 guys are pretty obvious: Nick Honor, Sean East, and the freshman Anthony Robinson. But you know what? I threw Caleb Brown into this category as well because, well, for one reason, I'm not really sure where else Caleb would fit more logically than that. He hasn't shown the ability to shoot to be a true option on the wing, and also not big enough to me to be considered a big, if you will. So Caleb has shown the ability to handle the ball. Perhaps the improvement that Missouri has talked about with Caleb this offseason is actually real. I feel like we heard that last season as well, so I'm just going to have to believe it when I see it there. But regardless, I think it's important for Missouri to have a little bit less of a load on Nick Honor's plate this season. Hopefully Anthony Robinson can play a little bit. Hopefully Caleb Brown truly can take some minutes, because I thought at the end of the season maybe Nick Honor was getting a little bit worn down. I really did. And honestly, it's too bad that Isaiah Mosley isn't here. That's one takeaway I have, because Mosley's certainly not a true point guard by any stretch of the imagination, but definitely a guy who can be your lead ball handler for large stretches of the game. Definitely, it's just too bad we never got a full true season of Isaiah Mosley in a Missouri uniform. But we move on. Regardless, a lot of good ball handling options there for the Tigers. Just hope that Honor doesn't have to average, 35 minutes a game down the stretch. Now, as far as the wing players go, you've got Caleb Grill, the transfer from Iowa State. He's a really good shooter, obviously, good defender, supposedly, as well. Tamar Bates, a kid who used to be from Missouri, Indiana transfer, good athlete, good shooter. Then you've got Trent Pierce, true freshman, a kid who's going to be really interesting, a guy who had a late growth spurt, just a really smooth offensive player from what I can see so far. He could play a little bit of the 4 spot, if you will, as well. But considering his, slight build at this point, I think the 3 spot, putting him on the wing makes a lot more sense. But, occasionally Missouri is going to go small. And when they do, Trent Pierce is definitely an option at the 4 spot. You've also got John Tonje, a transfer from Colorado State. And I just think overall you've got a really nice mix of wing players there. If I just named off 5 guys there, if 3 of them happen to pan out really well this season, that's kind of all you really need, honestly. Now, when it comes to the big guys, Noah Carter returns, Aiden Shaw returns, who I expect to have a pretty big breakout season, or at least I'm hoping that he can. Maybe a Lawrence Bowers-like breakout in year 2. You've also got transfers from other programs, Jesus Carolero. You've also got Connor Vanover, who, of course, played for Arkansas back in the day. Carolero is more in the Kobe Brown mold, I would say. Not that he's going to be as good as Kobe Brown whatsoever, but he's a guy who can at least step out and shoot it a little bit, a good passer, somebody that Missouri will probably, when he's in the ball game, do those sort of dribble handoff, pinch post type actions that Kobe Brown did quite a bit last year for Missouri. That's the type of player I expect him to be. Obviously, again, Vanover, the 7'5" player who probably will end up shooting a decent amount of threes offensively for Missouri, but his biggest value clearly is going to be as a rim protector. And then the true freshman, Jordan Butler. He'll probably need some time to develop, but sounds like he's a guy with a fair bit of upside too. So again, just gave you 5 names there of big guys that I think could potentially be valuable pieces. At the very least, I think we know what we're going to get from Noah Carter, and we hope Aiden Shaw has a nice improvement this year. Connor Vanover, I think we've got a pretty good idea what we're going to get from him. So already you've got a decent 3 big man rotation there. If you can get anything out of Carolero or Jordan Butler, that's just going to be a bonus. I just like the mix of this roster so far, and I think actually this could be quite a bit better of a team than maybe it was last year. I don't think it's crazy to say that. Now, this Missouri team, just like last year's squad, though, does appear to have a lot in terms of ball handling. Now, the one concern, I guess you could say, Sam Snelling, of course, over at Rock M Nation, talking about this Missouri recruiting class, was obviously over the moon about the whole thing, but he did have one small concern at the very end where he pointed out that, there's just not as many ball handlers on this roster in the coming years, at least on paper right now, as there have been this coming season and the previous year with Dennis Gates. He says it'll be interesting adjustment from going from 2 rosters chock full of ball handlers to one with a noticeable lack of them. I would just say that I'm much less concerned about it. I think it's a good observation, but I think this is actually a part of the strategy by Dennis Gates. If you allow me to attempt to read his mind there for a moment. I think Dennis Gates is shooting for the high upside wings and bigs right now because, frankly, obviously really good big men, quality size, even on the wings, guys like Michael Porter Jr., for instance, or whether it's Jeremiah Tillman or somebody like Kobe Brown, guys who are 6'8", 6'9", who can actually do something with the ball, handle it, shoot it, pass it, all that kind of stuff. Those guys are really rare commodities. So I'm guessing Gates, his calculus is, I'm going to shoot for as many of those guys as I possibly can. And I bet he thinks he can get another veteran point guard like Nick Honor or Sean East, somebody like that, a veteran point guard or ball handler in the transfer portal. And those guys are not only easier to find than quality high upside size, but I think that actually if you're trying to win games in the NCAA tournament, I think history has shown us that, yeah, veteran guards with experience, especially at the point guard position, go a long way. And you know what? Since I completely messed up the video version of the show on Monday, I want to show you at least really quickly that Brady Cook good anticipation throw I was talking about once again. And, well, maybe we'll have time for some other snaps to break down as well. But you know what? I will tell you this. Everyone should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected. That's why Jase Medical offers the Jase Case. The Jase Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use and gives you peace of mind so that you are not just hoping that you have access to medication in an emergency. Jase Medical makes sure you have the medication in hand. And Jase Medical is simple. They handle everything from the online evaluation to licensed pharmacy medication, delivery, and ongoing consultation and care. Don't get caught unprepared and get $20 off on these life-saving antibiotics today from Jase Medical by using my code LOCKEDON at checkout at jasemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. Okay, the video clock is still rolling, folks. We're going to get it right this time with this Brady Cook video. So let's pull up the snap I talked about on Monday. Again, apologies for screwing up that video, but here we go. Here's your make good. Again, this is just tremendous confidence and anticipation here by Brady Cook, because if you roll it forward here, just a post route here to Luther Burden, he catches this, you might think, he's pretty open there. But really Brady Cook throws Burden open here, because you notice the moment he decides to throw the ball is not when he catches it. No, the moment he decides to pull the ball, let's roll it forward here, he plants right here. This is the moment that Brady Cook has decided to throw this football. So he throws Luther Burden. He doesn't even really throw it to Luther Burden. He throws it to the spot that he is anticipating that he's going. And not only that, this throw is just enough behind Burden that he allows him to slow down for a second. Now, the key is he doesn't want Burden to slow down. He just wants this linebacker here to the left to not be brought into the play. And in fact, he is way out of the play by the time he gets this football. Again, this is all thanks to, again, just great anticipation by Cook and a really accurate throw as well that allows Burden to get downfield and get some more extra yardage after the play. And what the heck, while we're at it, since we're talking about these receivers, I think Theo Weiss, as I've said before, has been really good for Missouri when you watch the film. So let's give a good example of that there. He's been so good, I just think he's been overlooked by the tremendous play of Luther Burden so far. But you look at how much time Brady Cook has to throw the ball here. This is a good pocket by Missouri, good protection, another play action pass that goes well, but 1, 2, 3. That's not exactly, you're giving your defensive back a chance there on a 3 count, but look how easily Theo Weiss gets open on this route. He not only kind of burns him off the line here in press coverage, could have been better press there, maybe a little bit more of a jam there by Memphis would have helped, but just watch how he runs inside here and then just completely turns this guy around, gets wide open, shows his numbers to Cook for a really easy touchdown pass for the Tigers. Again, as good as Burden has been, if Speedy Johnson continues to be a great deep threat for Missouri, if Mookie Cooper continues to be a part of this passing game, and even more importantly, if Theo Weiss is just a legit number 2 wide receiver in the SEC, man, Brady Cook, if he keeps keeping this level of play up, he's going to have his receivers to thank in large part because he has got a lot of fun weapons to play with in this suddenly explosive Missouri offense. And thanks for making Locked On Mizzou your first listen every day. And for you everydayers, tomorrow on the program, going to preview all things Vanderbilt, final scores, predictions. Will Missouri cover the spread? How about the over-unders? The whole deal. Going to cover all the angles for you tomorrow right here on Locked On Mizzou.